Hey everybody, Trey here. Welcome back to another video. Back with another forecast discussion for today as we have a pretty potent severe weather event on tap across the northern plains, particularly North Dakota today. The SPC has just issued their late morning outlook and they have kept the risk at enhanced, level 3 out of 5, in the orange shaded region there, pretty much extending across the breadth of North Dakota. That's going to include Fargo, Bismarck, Jamestown, Minot, and everywhere in between there, all the way over to toward the Montana-North Dakota border. Slight risk extends from central Montana, including Billings, eastward over into western Minnesota and the northern tier of South Dakota. So pretty potent risk for today. All hazards are on the table. Tornado risk is at a 5% in the brown shading there, so that includes Minot and Bismarck. But the main story for today is going to be large to very large hail, 30% hatched area for large hail. So in excess of 2 to 3 inches in diameter are the possibilities for hailstones today with the initial supercells in this environment, especially in the red stippled region there. So that's going to take place across the western half of North Dakota, and then damaging winds. We could see a pretty persistent MCS tonight, possibly approaching derecho criteria that could pack a punch with winds, straight line winds in excess of 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. That is a possibility with the system for tonight. Then we go into tomorrow. We do have an enhanced risk as well. It is situated just a little bit to the east of today's risk. We do see it across eastern North Dakota into northwest Minnesota, far northeast South Dakota, really focused on the Minnesota-North Dakota border, Grand Forks, Fargo, under the gun there for tomorrow. Tornado risk is fairly low for tomorrow, but large hail is going to be the main threat, along with the threat for damaging winds, large to very large hail, all the way down toward the Nebraska-South Dakota border, but mainly in that enhanced risk area is where the greatest threat for significant severe hail is set up for tomorrow. Going to focus on today's threat in this video. We'll have updates as needed on tomorrow's threat as we get closer to tomorrow morning. But for now, going to focus on today's threat as it could be quite significant and quite a long duration threat as well. Let's take a look at what's going on right now across this area. We do have some early convection that is waning at this time. It is moving off toward the east-northeast across northern North Dakota, some still lingering there across northeast Montana. This could play a role in the severe threat for today. These storms may have a chance of re-intensifying as they move off to the northeast today, but they may also have a little bit of a boundary with them, at least a differential heating boundary, that may act as a little bit of a warm front to on its southern flank, and that could be a focus for more robust severe activity going into the afternoon and evening today. Here is our current upper air map. Data from the SPC mesoanalysis page starting at 500 millibars. Not a ton going on across much of the southern tier of the country. Big old ridge centered across the desert southwest into the southern plains. This is a reason why the monsoon has been shut down. Very strong heights here with this ridge that have really shut things down across the desert southwest. More southwesterly flow aloft. Not favorable for the monsoonal flow out here. But across the northern plains, or the northern tier of the U.S., we do see a little bit more of an unsettled pattern. We have a nice little trough centered across the Pacific Northwest that will impinge upon the northern plains tomorrow, setting the stage for tomorrow's severe weather threat. It is going to remain a little bit off to the west for the northern plains to get the real juice from this trough, but still we're going to have a little bit of shortwave activity moving through as we go through the day today, especially focused on the North Dakota and Montana corridor. If we go down to 700 millibars here, we see a little bit of a wave out across eastern Montana into western North Dakota, western South Dakota. This could be a player in the threat for today as it moves off to the east just a little bit. May allow for some re-intensification of storms as the environment destabilizes later on in the afternoon. And maybe a little bit of shortwave activity moving through behind it could initiate some storms in a second band across eastern and central Montana as we go into the afternoon today as well. So plenty of forcing for severe storms today, and that is going to act upon a pretty robust environment. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. Here is our current surface map. We do have a surface low situated really on the Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota triple point there with it's a little bit difficult to tell where the exact features are. The warm front may be situated kind of right in there, at least the synoptic warm front. We do have quite a bit of moisture north of this frontal boundary, And again, that outflow from the morning convection could be an effective warm front, allowing for a focus for severe storms there today as well, even though it is perhaps north of the synoptic warm front. But this surface low expected to kind of just meander here out across this area today. We do have some slightly stronger flow traversing the higher terrain of the Rockies, so we should maintain that Lee cyclogenesis process going into the afternoon today, and that will allow for a nice low-level wind profile, low-level air mass for severe weather. All right, let's take a look at some raw surface data here this morning. This is what we have going on right now. So this is our latest surface observation map. Our surface low situated somewhere in this vicinity here. You can see at least the broad counterclockwise rotation in the wind barbs here. Probably somewhere right in there. I'd put the center of the low, at least without doing any robust analysis here. The warm front, a little bit difficult to pinpoint. We don't really see a strong temperature gradient across these areas, not a really strong wind shift as well. So, it's not a strong surface low anyway, but it is at least going to help start to back the winds a little bit here across North Dakota, northern South Dakota, for that nice low-level wind profile for severe storms today. We do see a little bit of that temperature gradient, though, across North Dakota. We see what appears to be at least convective outflow, or at least some type of differential heating from that ongoing convection across North Dakota, right in that vicinity there where I've drawn it. That could be a very key factor in the threat for today, as of course stronger low-level shear along differential heating boundaries, and that could lead to an enhanced tornado threat with any storms that develop and anchor to that boundary. Also, we could see that be a focus for potential MCS and derecho development later on in the afternoon if the system tracks along this boundary. Could be more robust than expected, but overall a little bit of a chaotic surface map here with the synoptic warm front maybe just right in here, a little bit difficult to tell, and then your differential heating boundary right in there. It could be two focus points for severe weather today across the northern plains. Here is the Bismarck 12Z sounding, and already a very robust environment in place. Almost 3,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer CAPE already in place here at 12Z, 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time today. Very fat instability already in place above some more meager low-level thermodynamics, a little bit of an inversion there at the surface, but that should not be an issue as we go into the afternoon today. We should have strong heating. You see south of the ongoing cluster of showers there across North Dakota, we are seeing pretty much pure sunshine. Some random high-level clouds across these areas, and some areas of low cloud cover that are burning off rapidly as we go into the afternoon. So should have ample surface heating to allow for an even greater thermodynamic profile as we go into the afternoon today. Perhaps instability approaching 4, 5, even 6,000 joules per kilogram, which is well into the extreme range today. Fairly unidirectional wind profile above about 700, 800 millibars or so there, with a little bit of, again, more chaotic low-level flow. Not a hodograph that would really support significant tornadic activity yet, but again, that is expected to change as that surface low is going to kind of sit there, maybe strengthen ever so slightly going into the afternoon today, but we should see a little bit of, we should have some nice backed low-level flow here out of, just to the northeast of the surface low, and especially along any boundaries, that differential heating boundary that remains. And we could see slightly stronger low-level shear. But with such strong instability in play and a boundary, the rules kind of go out the window, and we could see a few tornadoes today from any initial supercells before things congeal into a line. But overall, a fairly classic summertime profile here with strong instability, an adequate deep layer shear to organize convection, about 40 knots of effective bulk shear, and low-level shear enhanced along boundaries could lead to an all-hazards risk with storms today. All right, here is our 12Z NAM. So you see our trough out here across the northwest U.S. Ridge down here to the south. You see at 500 millibars, that trough is going to slowly shift off to the northeast today, pretty much staying off to the west of our area of interest today. So we're going to have to rely on strong surface heating, convergence along boundaries, and that extra lift from the surface low to help us initiate storms today, rather than a fully forced event from a synoptic trough. But we should have plenty of forcing from those aforementioned short waves as well. A little bit of those kinks in the height contours there. You see that short wave out here across Montana into Wyoming. We'll move off to the east as we go into the afternoon, providing some forcing for ascent there across the eastern half of North Dakota into the central portions of the state, and then maybe a little bit of a shortwave back here across Montana into Wyoming, leading to a second round of development out there in the post-frontal regime. So plenty of forcing today, even though the features associated with that forcing are a little bit on the subtle side. Going down to the surface here, let's take a look at and zoom in at our northern plains sector. So there is our surface low as we speak right now, somewhere in that Wyoming, Montana, South Dakota triple point. Warm front, a little bit hard to pinpoint, maybe somewhere kind of right in this vicinity here, with our differential heating boundary up there to the north across North Dakota. We go into the afternoon, 21Z. We see a little bit better depiction of where that baroclinic zone is going to be located. You see the pressure tongue here out across northern North Dakota, closer to the international border. That may be an area to watch as well. And then anything down to the south in that warm air mass, warm, juicy air mass would be something to watch as well for maybe mostly a large hail and damaging wind risk. But storms that can anchor to this boundary could have the greatest threat for a tornado or two with that activity. Going into the evening hours, we see that things kind of stay the same, and then the MCS kind of plows through going into the overnight hours. All right, here is our moisture. Those dew points, those blue shading, indicative of 60 plus dew points, the purple 70 plus dew points, and you see rapid moistening through the afternoon as we get that southerly low-level flow to become entrenched across this region, pulling up those 70s dew points from down to the south. And that should lead to a nice corridor of really robust low-level moisture out across these areas. Little bit of a hole in the dew points, a little bit lower dew points in between those areas there across western North Dakota, and then the main area of 70s dew points off to the east. Still plenty of moisture to support a robust severe threat there, but I think where storms initiate, going to be back here closer to that boundary. And so we'll take a sounding here out across western North Dakota there. This is at 21Z, so 3 p.m. Or 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And this is what we're going to have to deal with today. So thermodynamically, nothing really to sneeze at here. Very, very strong instability, 5,200 joules per kilogram mixed layer CAPE on this particular sounding. 90 over 69 is a little bit on the high side as far as temperature dew point spreads go, but should still lead to favorable conditions for tornadic activity, especially with a little bit higher terrain there the farther west you go. But still a little bit of an inverted V profile there, but still favorable for a tornado or two across that area, but very strong instability. Here is your freezing level. You see very strong instability around that freezing level with steep lapse rates aloft. Those lapse rates approaching that 9 degrees Celsius per kilometer mark there. So very steep lapse rates aloft, very strong instability around the freezing level. Should, with a fairly strong shear to support organized convection and supercells, should lead to large to very large hail today with these storms. So thermodynamics, certainly nothing to sneeze at here today. The wind profile, not the most favorable for significant severe weather. You see it's fairly truncated, not a really lengthy hodograph. So it could lead to kind of more high precipitation storm modes with that upper level wind, the upper level shear kind of truncated a little bit on the smaller side. We do have plenty of shear for organized convection, over 40 knots of effective bulk shear, but overall, fairly limited storm relative outflow aloft could lead to a more high precipitation storm mode. And then low-level shear does remain on the weaker side, especially away from the boundary, fairly unidirectional flow in the lowest kilometer or so, which may negate the tornado risk outside of any boundaries today. But still, again, with boundaries in play and strong instability, definitely could lead to a few tornadoes there with any initial discrete supercells. So then we move on into the evening. Things should really start to get going by then out across North Dakota. And this is going to be at 0Z, so 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And the environment should still be very unstable, as you see here, plenty of instability. We do see a little bit of an increase in low-level shear as we go toward the evening. Low-level jet starts to ramp up a little bit. So some subtle curvature there in the low levels of the hodograph, still on the weaker side as far as tornadic activity goes. But this certainly would favor a large hail risk with any more discrete supercells, and then as things congeal, the damaging wind risk should be maximized with nice inverted V profiles, some slightly drier air aloft, that should lead to a quick transition to, not really a quick transition, but a transition to a more of a linear organization to these storms. So overall, a very favorable looking environment for significant severe weather today across these areas. And then as we go into the evening hours, those dew points kind of get swept out a little bit with that MCS, and then we set the stage for tomorrow. Significant severe weather is possible tomorrow. So let's go ahead and take a look at some convection allowing models here this morning. This is the 12Z HRRR. You see that ongoing convection across North Dakota wanes in intensity going into the afternoon. Then by about 19 to 20Z, 2 to 3 p.m., we start to see supercell development there near that boundary across northwestern North Dakota. Definitely would be slightly tendency toward more discrete activity initially before things maybe try to cluster out a little bit here. You see those multiple updrafts there, multiple cores, a little bit more of a clustered mode. Again, perhaps a more high precipitation storm mode with limited storm relative outflow initially. So this would be our greatest risk for a few tornadoes here with any storms that remain discrete and can anchor to that boundary, that baroclinic zone that we talked about earlier. And then we see additional convection develop on the southwest flank of that. We kind of see more of a linear organization to the convection here going into the afternoon. That would start to pose more of a damaging wind risk. You see a little bit of discrete activity though, being that it's kind of behind the main band here, perhaps maybe undercut a little bit by the outflow of the lead complex, maybe more of a large hail and damaging wind risk with those, but still mostly a linear organization to the complex, linear and clustered organization to that lead complex. And then you see by afternoon, we get some supercells to fire back here across central Montana near the Billings area, moving off to the east for quite a while. This would be mostly a large hail and damaging wind risk before things really congeal into a line going into the evening. You see there is our really intense bow that could lead to some 70, 80, 90 plus mile an hour wind gusts within that bow echo right there. Then things kind of move off to the east and become stay severe for quite a while, perhaps into central Minnesota there before waning tomorrow morning. So again, a long duration severe threat is expected with the activity for today. Here is the WRF ARW model. So you see there by afternoon, supercell development near that boundary across western North Dakota. That's our initial round of storms. Then we get additional development back here across central Montana. Supercells there with a large hail and damaging wind risk before things start to. So interestingly, the WRF ARW takes this initial complex as the strong one, very strong straight line wind gusts bowing out there in the middle, and then kind of allows this second round to dissipate. So a little bit of discrepancy among the cams here this morning. Let's take a look at the NSSL WRF model. So you see supercell development there clusters out pretty quickly in that lead round. You see a very strong MCS moving off to the east, supercells across central Montana. And then interestingly, it kind of too dissipates that second round, and this lead round is the strongest one persisting into Minnesota. And then you see kind of a secondary one developing there going into the overnight hours tonight. So complex evolution is likely. I do think we will no doubt see two areas of convective development today. It is going to be that first area here across western North Dakota to watch first for initial supercells near that differential heating boundary. And then we'll see additional convection develop here across central Montana near the Billings area and moving off to the east. Now, we'll have to just wait and see how things play out, but we could see, we'll see two rounds of storms. Whether or not the second round of storms will be the one to watch mostly for the strongest straight line winds or the lead system remains to be seen, but still doesn't matter. Significant damaging winds are likely across this enhanced risk corridor from one of these systems, perhaps persisting into western Minnesota going into the evening hours later tonight. Tornado risk is at a 5%. I think it's going to be maximized here across western North Dakota near that baroclinic zone. Could see a few spin-up tornadoes in the MCS as it moves off to the east across North Dakota, but the main threat should be with those initial supercells near the boundary. But large to very large hail and significant damaging winds are the main threats for today in both of these rounds of storms. But again, we'll have to wait and see how they play out. But overall, significant damaging winds and very large hail are possible with the storms today. And that'll set the stage for tomorrow's severe threat as well. So pretty potent event on tap for folks in the northern plains, especially North Dakota. Have those weather radios handy. Straight line winds can be just as damaging, if not more damaging, than tornadic winds. So even if it's just an MCS, severe thunderstorm warning, not a tornado warning, take them seriously today, as the environment is ripe for significant severe weather, including straight line wind gusts approaching 100 miles per hour in some locations. So that's going to do it for this forecast discussion. Have multiple ways of receiving warnings, and we'll get through this just fine. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.